Look, I'll accept part of the blame for this, but some of you idiots need to learn how to read the room. My primary concern with these videos isn't to walk on well-trodden ground and deliver you whatever the meta is. If you just want to turn your brain off and be told what the strongest builds in the game are, you've come to the wrong place. My goal is to try and find gimmicky cross-perk synergies that are just strong enough to be worth talking about. Melee Firebug was a fluke, okay? It's all downhill from here. You can pitch your ideas in the comments if you want, but you can't sell me on an idea if your selling point is that it's the best strategy available or it breaks the game. If you want to buy Vulcan on Firebug, or spam grenades with the Engineer, or one-shot flesh pounds with the katanas on Ninja, there's plenty of other places on YouTube where you can have that slop spoon-fed to you. We peddle in jank and off-meta in this house. Speaking of which, today's build. I planned to talk about the gun first this time, but I realized if I started talking about the gun, it would descend into a huge rant, so instead let me just get all this build nonsense out of the way so that my brain vomit can proceed uninterrupted. I will just briefly mention that the gun is going to be the MP6, specifically with the healing grenade attachment, and armor-piercing rounds. Now, ordinarily, I would say that Hunter is the superior option, since you rarely ever want to hold still and crouch in this game, but that 10% bonus damage is definitely enticing enough for me to consider it. First off, in multiplayer, holdouts are quite common, so as the sharpshooter, you can definitely find the space to sit in the middle and crouch, but in solo, the problem that you run into is that even if you can in-cap a large Zed to prep them for a takedown, there's so many trash Zeds around that you can't afford to crouch and slow down long enough to kill them without getting surrounded yourself. The healing grenade attachment solves this issue for us. I'll demonstrate it later, but the basic idea is that you can throw a freezing grenade to in-cap the large Zed, shoot a healing grenade behind you or at your feet, and then do the Zed takedown while the healing grenade interrupts any trash Zeds on the approach. Speaking of healing grenades, the whole reason, well, there's two reasons, but the first reason I wanted to use the MP6 in the first place is for the self-healing. Sharpshooter has perhaps the weakest self-sustain out of all the perks in the game, besides the Engineer. With no way to regain her own armor, and not but a single relevant heal skill tied to her gadget, getting hurt as the Sharpshooter sucks. Yeah, she's got this syringe skill at 20, but it's competing with movement speed, so I don't know what they were expecting. Maybe you can argue that for multiplayer, the movement speed is less necessary if you plan on holding out somewhere. But if you're in multiplayer, there'll be syringe bags all over the place anyway, so I still don't get the appeal. For level 8, you know how much I hate the different sights in this game, but for reasons that will become apparent later, I don't mind it in this case because of the specific gun that we're using. The extra damage isn't needed to get headshot kills on trash Zeds, so we can still hipfire when necessary. The skills at 14 are kinda to taste. They're both decent, and for once the demonstration video actually shows the value of a skill, because 90% of the chip damage that you take in this game is from things like Huskfire and Bloat Bile, which are often things that you end up running and sliding through. It's just a shame that it doesn't include jumping among these different movements. I personally like Hardshell because of how valuable it is for boss waves, especially in multiplayer. That cooldown is obnoxious, but I can't deny the value of it basically giving you a free life every time it's up during a boss wave. Now, level 26 is a tough one. Basically, we're trying to decide between Perfect Shot and Rack 'em Up. The way I look at them, Rack 'em Up is incredibly easy to maintain, and therefore basically has 100% uptime, which may give you relevant breakpoints against medium Zeds, whereas Perfect Shot is clearly the better choice for large Zed takedowns and boss DPS. When we look at the case of a large Zed takedown, if we assume that Rack 'em Up already has 5 stacks, which it almost certainly will, and that Perfect Shot has to start at 0, Perfect Shot only starts outpacing the damage of Rack 'em Up after, I forget what it is, something like 12 shots, where the math starts favoring Perfect Shot. So like there's this threshold where if the weapon you're using kills large Zeds in less than 12 shots, you want Rack 'em Up, but if your weapon takes more than 12 shots, you want Perfect Shot. This all assumes that we don't miss a shot during the takedown, though, so to be safe, you kind of want to aim a little lower, just in case the spread sends one of the bullets too high up. And the reason we're ignoring Big Game Hunter here is because we're using armor-piercing rounds. For our grenade, we don't really intend to use this to clear trash, even though that's the more economically sound way to build it. I just like the damage multiplier here at the end, particularly the way it includes force damage so that we can benefit our armor-piercing rounds as well. So I've built into the freeze aspect of it here and here. As for the gadget, I'm not particularly impressed with the Sharpshooter's gadget, especially because there's quite a few questionable skills here. The way I have built it here is to kind of maximize its duration and get the cooldown, just so that it can help clear trash while I use the increased damage to take down large Zeds while it's active. There is, theoretically, I guess, a way you can build this to deal with large Zeds rather than trash Zeds. I'm just not really sure why you would ever want to do that. First of all, you're Sharpshooter. Killing large Zeds with your guns is literally your job. But second of all, even if you do grab things like Buzz Bomb and Bug Out, there's no way to guarantee that the arrow ends its journey near a large Zed. So that's taking a huge gamble on your incredibly long cooldown gadget. Oh, and third of all, just watch this demonstration video. Keep in mind that they aren't taking any of the skills to increase the number of hits, so this is as fast as the explosion can possibly come out. You're expending your once, maybe twice per wave gadget for the privilege to wait 10 seconds before it might stumble a large Zed. I don't really see the appeal. I could have just shot the guy. This gadget just doesn't feel like it should have as long of a cooldown as it does. Maybe they're balancing it around the gadget cooldown ability here, getting a lot of value. But this is probably the weakest of all the cooldown reduction skills next to the ninjas. I wish I knew what the exact distance was to trigger this, because if it's like 10 meters away, you can trigger that a decent amount of the time during the wave, assuming you're kiting like you should be. But if it's like 20 meters away, like the demonstration video seems to imply, this is beyond useless. Maybe you can argue that in multiplayer you can set up in the center of the party and just resign yourself to Husk Patrol, but in solo Hell on Earth, there's absolutely no argument to be made. I could perhaps conceive of a situation where you grab the movement speed instead of the damage, and just like stack that with flight response, and then just refuse to kill anything until you've sprinted 20 meters away from it. I don't know. I look at this, and I can't help but compare it to the Firebug's gadget cooldown condition of killing things that are close to you, and how that will basically trigger off of every single Zed in the wave. Like, if they intend for this gadget to have a longer cooldown than other gadgets, that's fine. I just wish they balanced it like a gadget with a really long cooldown. If not for the healing skill up here, this would feel like a gadget that should have a way shorter cooldown. Alright, finally onto the weapon. Now, let me be perfectly clear. This is not a good weapon. This $3,300 Tier 3 gun deals 70 base damage. For reference, that's the same damage as Commando's Tier 1 starting weapon, which is less than half that price. So then, why am I using this gun? Well, 3 reasons. Number 1, I actually like the MP6. I really do. It's one of the only guns in this entire game that I like the look of and the feel of. I like that they didn't add a bunch of obnoxious sci-fi trimmings that make it look like a space gun. It actually looks and feels like a proper firearm, ugly underbarrel attachment aside. And unlike some other guns, I don't think that the silencer makes the gun sound worse. That's without the silencer, and that's with the silencer. It's not bad. And that's a huge relief considering how important the silencer attachment is. Reason number 2, I mentioned this briefly before, but the Sharpshooter struggles with staying topped off. The problem is solved by the addition of the healing grenades. But wait, I hear you say. Does that just imply that as you get better at the game and better at avoiding damage, that the healing becomes irrelevant? Perhaps. I mean, I could argue that things like Huskfire and Bloat Bile can end up causing enough chip damage that this would be nice anyway. But even if I grant that you're a god at movement and never take any damage, these grenades retain their usefulness as an area denial tool that you can use to create breathing room for large Z takedowns. So then the question then becomes, do the healing grenades and the gun feeling good justify using this over something like the Scar, for example, which is cheaper, deals more than 50% more damage, and has access to all the same attachments? Actually, you know what? Forget that. Why would you ever use it over the Wraith? It deals the same damage, has basically the same fire rate, but it's less than half the price. The answer, naturally, is no. You absolutely cannot justify using the MP6. And that is the third reason that I'm using it, because you really, really shouldn't be. This segues into a broader conversation about weapon balance in regards to cross-perking in general, and the way that certain weapons are monopolizing the meta, so I'll try my best to keep my focus narrow here. For the MP6 specifically, the idea that I think they were going for is that because this is a weapon designed for a class whose primary role is healing, complete with attachments to facilitate that, they justify this kind of utility by blunting the damage output. Assuming that's true, I have several problems with this. Let's start with the healing utility. Why would you ever use this weapon to heal while playing as a medic? My brother in Christ, you have a pistol with unlimited healing darts, double syringe bags, your gadget, and healing grenades. If that's not enough healing, this gun isn't going to make the difference. And besides, at the highest level of play, and even in most pubs I would say, you don't really want to use your darts to heal people as a reaction to them taking damage. Instead, you want to be using your darts proactively to give them buffs that will prevent them from taking damage in the first place. And the medic pistol can handle that job on its own. If they do take damage and need to heal, that's what their syringes are for. And if they aren't using a bad build, they'll usually have some way to heal themselves from their skills anyway. But even then, if you must heal them, you have healing grenades and your gadget. That's more than enough. All that to say, the value of the healing utility on this gun is way less than it seems, and in my opinion is not something that can justify just how pathetic its performance is. There's a lot of ways you could go about fixing this. You could make it cheaper, maybe even drop it to a tier 2 gun and swap its place with the biomorphic projector. If you want to keep it at the same price, just a small damage buff would be good enough, in my opinion. It costs more money than the Scar, for fuck's sake. I'm not saying it needs to be on the same level of power as the Scar, but for a tier 3 weapon, it should at least be stronger than a tier 1 weapon. Why would you ever buy it otherwise? The medic already never buys this. Even if you insist on staying on perk, you just stick with the VS11 and then go into the tier 4 afterwards. But as I explained earlier, you don't need your primary weapons to fill the healing role. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that if you, as the medic, are not using your primary weapons exclusively to deal damage, you're being a bad medic. Prevention always beats a cure. Just because you're on buffing duty does not mean you get to shirk your responsibility of killing Zeds. That's what we're here for, after all. At the moment, that just involves buying a Vulcan, but even if you're interested in a kind of machine gun playstyle and you're eyeballing the MP6, the Commando's entire arsenal makes this weapon completely obsolete. The only way that the healing aspect of this gun gets any value is by using it on another perk that doesn't have that reliable access to healing, like the Engineer or the Sharpshooter. This is the kind of cross-perk synergy that I keep my eyes out for when I'm making these builds, combining weaknesses with solutions and subverting established perk rules so that you can try a playstyle capable of tackling the hardest content that the game has to offer without completely steamrolling it. Okay, I got a little off topic there, so let's get back to the gun. This is the version I will be using. Already you may be confused because it only has 4 mods on it. That's right, we are sacrificing 2 tier 3 bonus abilities so that this gun feels better to use. One of the things I hate about this crafting and modding system is the way that Tier 3 bonuses are tied to the mods. Let's say you're like me, and you hate both the available sight mods, and you think that they make it harder to see. Let's say you just prefer the iron sights. That's pretty common. Well, going without the sights is actively nerfing yourself, because now you don't have their RPG stat percentage increases or the Tier 3 bonuses that come with them. If you want to min-max and optimize your gun, sometimes that makes your gun feel worse. I don't want 5 less bullets in the magazine in exchange for reload speed. I don't want the ugly sights that obstruct my view. But by giving those up, I also lose, potentially, 10% bonus damage versus the boss, or an increase in stumble power, or a 10% damage reduction versus the boss that may be the difference between getting one shot versus surviving with 1 health to slide away and syringe. And this gun isn't even the only example. Let's say you like the Bone Breaker. What's that? You don't like the laser sight and how it doesn't even point where your bullets go? Well, too bad. If you want to optimize, this laser gets to distract you and throw off your aim no matter what you choose. Oh, and just to further drive home how much this game works against the ninja, take a look at any perk's secondary weapon. 6 mod slots? Pretty good. Now let's look at the shuriken. 3 mod slots. That's 3 Tier 3 bonus abilities that you're missing for no good reason. And, well, those are just the secondary weapon. Who cares? What about the primaries? Every other perk in the game has 6 mod slots on their weapons, but not the ninja. Their weapons only have 5. That might not sound like a big difference, but it's just another way that the game punishes you for no good reason. Honestly, if it were up to me, I'd divorce the Tier 3 bonus abilities from the mods entirely. Obviously, an overhaul of the system would be a huge undertaking, but if you wanted to change as little of the skeleton of the system as possible, just turn those Tier 3 abilities into a separate menu somewhere on this screen so that you can have your attachments over here, and then, I don't know, the Tier 3 bonuses can be over here. Except they wouldn't be called Tier 3 bonuses anymore. You can give them a new name. That way, every weapon can have the same number of Tier 3 bonuses, even for weapons like the shuriken, where it wouldn't make sense to have more than 3 mod slots on the weapon. And for fuck's sake, just let us pick what we want. Does anybody genuinely think that Killing Floor 3 is better off for having its progression gated behind an RNG crafting grind? If you do, please let me know so that I can ban you from my comments. We don't allow gambling addict Philistines in this Christian Minecraft server. This shit is indefensible. Days and days spent grinding materials so that you can spend hours and hours pressing the recycle button, but only after you consult a chart that doesn't exist in the game to make sure that that attachment can even roll the Tier 3 bonus that you're looking for. And the amount of time this can take you is completely undefined. Could be a day, or it could be weeks and you stop playing before you ever find it. And you do this for every mod on every gun that you use. What is this steel man here? I'm struggling. Are you afraid that players will stop playing your game after getting the mods they want because they finished the grind and got their reward or whatever? If yes, you should ask yourself why you have made a game that isn't fun enough to play without extrinsic goals. A player who is grinding away at a game using things they don't like just for a chance to get the things they do like is a player who's not having as much fun as they could be if they were simply allowed to experiment. Of course, there is no easy way to experiment in this game, even if they could, but I digress. Putting barriers to gameplay that must be overcome as progression systems is and always has been a terrible idea. And everybody knows this. Ask any longtime player of Darktide, or Deep Rock Galactic, or Monster Hunter, or Helldivers, or even previous Killing Floor games. They'll all tell you the same thing. Reaching max level is not when the game ends. It's when the game starts. Everything up until that point has been a tedious obligation, and that's especially true in this game with how long it takes to reach level 30. Oh wait, it's not just level 30, it's also max proficiency. Oh wait, it's not just that either, it's also perfect tier 3 rolls. Oh wait, it's not just that either, it's also perfect tier 3 rolls on every gun you intend to use. You can argue that it's not necessary in order to win, which is true, but I look at that argument the same way I look at people who say that there's nothing wrong with the buff stacking in Elden Ring because they beat the game as a level 1 wretch using an unupgraded club. Sure, you can handicap yourself by refusing to engage with certain systems, but for those of us who roleplay as the platonic ideal of the tripwire consumer and actually engage with everything that the game has to offer, we're met with absolute misery. And it's not just the crafting system with this problem, it's also in the perk leveling. I wanted to go back to the ninja and test out a finisher-based build using Violent Sorcerer, but I couldn't because the skill is artificially weaker until I grinded up more proficiency points because it's not enough to reach the level of the skill. You also need to grind up an arbitrary currency or these skills are effectively worthless. It took like 5 Hell on Earth matches just to get the points needed to level up these two skills here. This is especially obnoxious now that I'm max level. Why are these skills artificially weakened like they intended us to use them on normal difficulty? My brother in Christ, I'm level 30. It's safe to assume I'm playing on Hell on Earth by now. Why can't I just start trying these out at their full potential? This is just my opinion, but if it were up to me, I'd remove this system entirely and just have every skill be at their max upgrade potential when you unlock them. In fact, I'd take a pair of hedge scissors to a lot of the shit in this game. Material grinding? Gone. Crafting system? Gone. Attachments are now purely utility to change how the gun feels, not increase its damage or performance. They are not upgradable, and they have no effect on the price of the weapon. Let me tune the feel of the gun without the baggage of these bloated stat numbers. I want to pick a sight because I like the look of it, not because it gives me 4% more zoom critical damage or whatever. Purely spitballing here, the Tier 3 bonus abilities are now a separate system where you can house all of the damage increases and performance upgrades that would actually affect the price of the gun. Let us choose exactly what bonuses we want, and if you must gate them behind something deterministic, not RNG. This RNG grind shit has become way too normalized. Maybe I'm just cynical, and it's possible that my frustration is impeding my ability to be good faith about this, but come on! These games don't include RNG grinds because it improves the experience and makes players have more fun. They include them because it's the least effort required to keep players in the game. And the longer they're in the game, the more time they spend exposed to all of the microtransactions. But of course, you guys don't need me to tell you that. You're savvy consumers. It's not like you've bought any microtransactions, right? Look, in my opinion, if you want to include a long-term grind in a game like this, you should do two things. Number one, focus on cosmetic unlocks. And number two, have those cosmetic unlocks be deterministic long-term goals. And hey, would you look at that? That's precisely what they did here. Except for what may be the most insidious thing of this entire game, having you spend their arbitrary battle pass currency to unlock things that you can't access without spending money. To be clear, I am not chiding this game for having microtransactions, even though I should. This is the bad timeline, we're on the wrong side of history, it's become normalized, I get it. What I absolutely will call out, however, is just how smug and predatory it is to present it in this manner. Oh wow, I finally got to the bottom and unlocked this sick ninja skin. Except no, you didn't. Look at the check marks down there. Reserved, Check. Unlock all 4 rewards? Check. There's just one more checkbox. You're so close. All you have to do is open your wallet. You may as well. You've come all this way after all. This shit makes me bitter. After I'm done with this video, I'm just going to be done with this game until they make some major changes. New perks and new guns aren't going to fix these issues. The disease is bone deep. You need surgery, not longer pants to cover the surface symptoms. After 170 hours of playtime, I've more than given this a fair shake. Nobody wants to like this game more than I do. Trust me. If you know, you know. But I truly can't bring myself to level up another perk or max out another weapon. I'd just rather play something else. So, let's finish this together, you and I. One last ride. There were a lot of other things I had in mind that I would bring up in future videos. The clunky movement, the fact that husks are just the new Edars, the boss balance. But right now, I just want to play a match of Killing Floor 3, use a gun that I like, maybe get a boss that I like, have some fun, and get some closure. So sit back and relax, because that's what I intend to do. The rest of this video will be without commentary.
Fire can be dangerous. Okay, zipline is ready. Who could use some armor? Cállate. Es muy estrecho. Turret online. Settle down. Lacra. Andate a la mierda. Qué gordo de mierda.
Wave defeated.
Hey, anyone need armor? Turret active. Bien hecho. Turret online. Turret active.
Final wave incoming.
Reloading. Cover me. Pardon, man.
Take out the rest.
Don't play with matter. I pinged it.
Wave conquered.
That's it. Y una grande de multa y birra, por favor. ¡Qué lío!
Second squad. Everyone geared up and ready?
I think I've been poisoned.